Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. So this is going to be a video tutorial series on the composable architecture focused around my experience working with it over the last year and a half or so, but specifically on this new app I just released to the App Store called Sprigling. It's a baby activity tracking app for new parents, but it has some interesting features that I struggled to find answers how to implement, like Firebase auth, subscriptions, and things like that. So I thought it'd be a good idea to share how I did those things and help you avoid some similar struggles. I won't be going into the specifics of TCA. You should come to this already knowing how to send an action to a store. You should know what a reducer is. But I highly encourage you to go to Point Free and check out their documentation, their video tutorial series. They cover a lot, and you should come out of it with a good understanding of TCA. I will leave a link to that as well as to the app if you want to download and see some of the features we're going over, as well as the source code for all of the tutorials that I'll be going over. But first, I kind of want to focus on project setup and how I start a new project with TCA. So let's dive right into that. Okay, so click New Project. It'll be an app. Click Next. Give it a project name. We'll go New Project Setup. SwiftUI is fine. Our testing system we're going to leave at none because all of our tests are going to be in our modules. So go ahead and click Next. Choose a place to save it and hit Create. And at this point, we have a new project. So now I'd like to go ahead and rename our main folder to App. And also delete this preview content folder, as all of our previews will be in the modules. So we can move this to trash. If you do that, you're going to get an error up here. And what it basically says is that this path is no longer found. So you need to come in here and delete it. And that should get rid of that error. And we can go ahead and build and test. Good to go. So now we can go ahead and add our package. Come up here, new package. Be a library. Here, the testing system, like I said, we want to set to Swift testing. This is for all of our modules. We'll call it New Project Setup. We want to add it to the project folder, and we want to make sure we set the project, and our group should be at the top level of the project as well. And then hit Create. Now we have our package. It automatically added a source and test folder with a module for that. We're going to change this to root here in a second. So we can just change this to root and copy that around. The test will be called root tests, so we'll leave that. And then we'll do our folders. Again, this will be root tests. And inside the folder, we'll have to change the name of the files, as well as up here, but this will be root view. And then back in our package, we will go ahead and add our platforms, which should just be an array, and it's going to be just, I think, iOS 18 for now. That should be all we have to do, and we'll go ahead and build, just double check. Perfect. So now we want to add root to our main app. If you can see up here, we have our module, and we want to come in here and add root as a framework to our target. And we want to set up root view a little bit here. Everything needs to be public if we want to access it from our main app. So we will make these public, and we'll also add a public initializer. And let's just go ahead and change this text to root view so we can check it. And that should be good, and we'll go ahead and build. Perfect. Now we should be able to come down here and import root and change content view to root view. And we should be able to come up here and change this And we should be able to run it in the simulator and see root view. Perfect. We can also now delete content view as we no longer need it. So now we can go ahead and add TCA to our package. We do that by adding a dependency. We'll paste that in. TCA is at 1.14 now, so that should install, which it did. We also need to add a dependency to our module so we can access Composable Architecture from there. So we'll add that as well. We will give it a quick build, make sure that's all working. Perfect. So now let's go over to our view. We can add the Composable Architecture. And I like to start all my views with an empty reducer and go ahead and add state and actions as I need them. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. And we're going to need to add a store as well to our view. So we'll add that. We'll have to update our initializer. And there's that. And we'll also need to update our preview. And we'll go ahead and give that a build and make sure that's working. Great. So now let's add it to our main app. So if we come down here and we import Composable Architecture and we update our view to look for a store now, we save that. Let's see if we switch over here and we build the simulator, we should actually see root view still. So at this point, we are basically set up modularized for TCA. But there is one other step I like to do, and that's set up access to AppDelegate. And so in root here, we can add a new file, Swift file. We will call this AppDelegate. And we will need access to SwiftUI as well as Composable Architecture. And we want to basically just handle our AppDelegate here to do things like did finish launching. And we want to send those to our root view. So we'll add a AppDelegate class. This needs to be NS object and needs to conform to UI application delegate. And we'll paste in our did finish launching function, which we need to return true from. So in order to send those events to our class when the app finishes launching, we need access to the store. So we will go ahead and create a store here in our AppDelegate. And that'll be root feature. And then inside here, before we return true, we can actually do store.send did finish launching, which we don't have access to yet. So inside of our view, we will go ahead and add our first action, which will be did finish launching. And so we'll update our reducer to handle that. And we will grab state and action. And we will go ahead and switch on action and handle this. And for now, we're just going to print did finish launching, and we will return none. So that sets it up in the root. Now we just need to go over to our app and insert it here. So we need access to our AppDelegate that we just created, and we can do that through something called the UI Application Delegate Adapter, and we can then store a local variable to that AppDelegate. And then in our root view, instead of generating our store the way we always do, we can actually pass in the AppDelegate's version of it. And that should go ahead and build. If we run it in the simulator, we should see root view still as well. So now we're accessing the store from that. We should also see this did finish launching print, which it did. Perfect. So now we are handling the did finish launching events from the AppDelegate to root view, but we're not really doing anything with it. And so what I like to do is handle some state inside of root that keeps track of whether or not we are launching or launched. And to do that, we can use an enum reducer called root mode. And this basically just have two cases, launching or launched. We need to add a property to our state. We'll initialize it to launching. We'll need to add an action as well. And we'll need to handle that action inside of our reducer or our reduce function. We'll just return none. But we also do have to handle an iflet or add an iflet reducer because this is optional state. And so what this will allow us to do is when we send a did finish launching event, we can set our state.mode equal to launched. Since we're initializing it as launching, we should be able to tell the difference between the two. We can show this in the view with a iflet store and switch out the store.case. So let's do that now. And then we'll just switch on the store.case between the two events. And that should be all we need. And we can test this in the simulator. It should show launched, launching first, but it'll probably happen too fast. We'll see. Yeah, we didn't see the launching, but we can fix that in a second by writing a test. So to write our test, we first need to kill the simulator and go down to root tests. And it looks like we forgot to update this to root. So we'll change that to root. And then we'll need to import the composable architecture as well. First thing I like to do here is wrap all of our tests in a struct. So they're all grouped together, and we'll call it root tests. And we'll just put that in there. And then we'll name this to did finish launching. So the first thing we'll need for our test would be access to the test store. So let's switch over here to root, and we will access test store. Now, when we initialize that state, it should be launching, and we can actually write an expectation to verify that that is the case. So let's go ahead and do that now. And if we go ahead and run our test, that should actually pass. Perfect. So this lets us know that we initialized it correctly to launching, but what we really want to check is that when we call did finish launching, it switches back to launched. And we can do that by calling it on the test store. So if we put this in here, this will call did finish launching, and we're going to verify that it is now set to launch. And so let's run that test again. And perfect, it succeeds. So now we can verify that it was launching, and it does change to did finish launching, which is all the functionality we have in our initial state anyway. So that's it. That's how I start my projects. I think it gives you a good starting place to build any size project you want. If you want to add authentication, sign in, this allows you to jump between views based on state, which is the idea. In the future, I will show that with Firebase Auth, as well as some other options. So if you like the video, please subscribe and check out Sprigling and tell me what you think. And thanks for watching.